Hello everyone. I welcome you all to another webinar by us at Archipedia, a common platform to interact and share knowledge among architects and designers. I am Anupama Sharma, architect, landscape architect and co-founder of Archipedia. We received many requests for today's topic, and on popular demand, we present SketchUp for landscape and urban design scale projects by architect Arnav Saikia. Architect Arnav Saikia is a Maulana Azad NIT Bhopal pass out and urban designer from School of Planning and Architecture Bhopal. He has experience of working with Aegis International Doha, Qatar, Intersect Bhopal Chapter, Abha Architects Delhi, and over 6 years of teaching experience. He has a strong command over SketchUp and has conducted various seminars, webinars and workshops for SketchUp. So Arnav will first demonstrate few tips and tricks on the topic, and then at the end we will take all the queries. So please keep writing all your queries, and you can also mail us your queries at arnav@archipedia.org. So I hand over the mic to Arnav to start the session.
Thank you, Anupama, for the kind introduction. I welcome you all in this webinar on SketchUp for landscape and urban scale projects. SketchUp is widely used to create site terrain and landscape elements because of its flexibility in handling faces and topography. However, many times we all face with several challenges while working with complex geometries such as topography. Now this particular webinar is focused on this kind of spaces, and also we have moduled this webinar for those who have some knowledge of handling the software and at least some experience of working with landscape projects. I will share some tips and tricks which will definitely help you create complex geometries with ease. I will also be demonstrating several plugins or extensions, as they are now called, that will increase your efficiency drastically. Now I will be using lots of extensions, so make sure you make a note of all the extensions so that you can follow them along, and later on you can download them along with later on you can download those plugins from popular plugin websites like Sketchucation or SketchUp Extension Warehouse. Now I will be using SketchUp 2020, so certain icons, terminologies or interfaces may differ from your version of SketchUp, but you can definitely try them all in any version. So let's dive into SketchUp for landscape and urban scale projects. We will start with the very basic ones, then we will move on to more advanced features. So if you are already familiar with these, please stay with me till the end so that you can learn how to proceed with the advanced features. Now firstly, I will show you how to create terrain from contour lines. Now here we have these contour lines imported from CAD. As you can see that they have their elevations in them, and also they came with their respective CAD layers. Now these are different CAD layers. I can manually turn them on and off just like in CAD. Now the CAD layer will be the same as their names will be the same as you name them in CAD. So it is very basic contour lines with trees, tree symbols and a road on it. Okay. So one fundamental problem, let me turn off these. One fundamental problem when we import any kind of curved layers in SketchUp from CAD is that all the lines that we import comes as broken lines. So they are very difficult to handle. So we are going to merge all those lines together so that we can work on them in a much easier way. So for that I'm going to use an extension called Simplify Contours. Now all the extensions I will be demonstrating here are free extensions. You can Google them, you can download them from SketchUp warehouse, SketchUp extension warehouse, sorry, or Sketchucation website. Now Simplify Contours. Now here it gives me a default degree of 10. For further details, more details, I'm going to use an angle of 6 degrees. That is, all the lines that are connected by 6 degree or less will be connected. That means we can see that all these lines have been connected as single line, right? So now we have all the contours connected. So now there are several ways of creating terrain from contours, and there are multiple extensions. You might have already be familiar with the SketchUp's native tool, which is called the Sandbox Tool. Now first let me demonstrate it with the Sandbox Tool, then I'm going to repeat it with another extension which is called the Topo Shaper, and I will also demonstrate the fundamental difference between the two and which one is more preferable and why. Now let me select all the terrain, all the contour lines, and let's just click on the From Contours tool on the Topo Shaper, in the Sandbox Tool. And once we click here, you can see that the terrain has been generated and it is created as a new group, right? So I'm going to repeat this same process in this particular copy, which is the same copy. Let me first connect all the lines with using the Simplify Contours extension, Simplify Contour, using a degree of 6. Now this is a trial and error. You can go on explore with the degree 6. Now all the terrains are connected, all the contour lines are connected. I'm going to select all the contour lines again. This time I'm not going to use the sandbox. I'm going to use the Topo Shaper extension. Again, just we need to click here. It is going to give me a warning that it will create a new layer, saying OK for that. Now we have further options. I'm going to go with the default options and click Generate Terrain and click outside to complete the tool. There you can see that we have generated the terrain. It is more or less same as the Sandbox tool, but the fundamental difference will be shown once we go and turn on the hidden geometry. Now when we turn on the hidden geometry, we can see that the terrain is created in case of Sandbox by triangulating the faces. So these kind of terrain created by Sandbox are created by triangulating faces, but in case of Topo Shaper we get more uniform terrains because it gets created, it divides the terrain into grids, and we can also have control over the grid sizes once you understand the different options it provided while creating the terrain with Topo Shaper. So by controlling the grid sizes, we can also control the level of details we want in our terrain. So let me turn off the Topo Shaper again, hidden geometry. So it is up to you which one you prefer and how much detail you are looking for. If you are not interested in installing an additional plugin for creating terrain, you can definitely go with the Sandbox tool. It provides a very good terrain for normal kind of details. Next, I'm going to create the road from the CAD lines which we imported from the road. Let me turn on the layer and copy the CAD lines, select the CAD line, and let me move it upwards where we can see them. Now you must know that if we import a CAD drawing, in order to create a face we need to create a line somewhere. Once we create a line, it will automatically create a face if it is along a single face, if there is a face possible on that particular edge. Now in order to project the road on the terrain, I will be using the Sandbox tool again, but a different tool here which is called the stamp tool. Make sure that the face is selected, then click on the stamp tool, and next, with all the default settings again, I'm going to click on the terrain as a group. Now let it process. You can see that it is processing here at the bottom left side of your SketchUp screen. It may take some time depending on the level of details it has. Thus we have the road projected on the terrain, and you can see that it also merged it with the terrain. Now we can move our cursor to provide an appropriate level. I think somewhere between these will be fine, and thus we have the road going along the terrain projected on the 3D model like this. Now you can go on adding further detail on this particular face, and I will also show you how you can create more details on roads in our coming exercises. Now the road is projected, we can get rid of this CAD lines. Now I'm going to project the 2D trees from here onto the terrain. Okay, so let's first select all my 2D CAD symbols, move it upwards so that we can see them. Now I have got a 3D tree here. Let me copy it on top of one of the, I'm just copying it on top of one of the tree component which was imported from the CAD. Now this I have placed it so that the center is aligned here along with the CAD drawing and the 3D tree. Now this is a low poly tree. You can use any kind of tree, just don't use any heavy trees here, that is with larger size or more details. Now in order to copy them on all the components, I just need to cut it with Ctrl X, double click, and double click go inside one of the component, and then go to edit and paste in place. And thus you can see that since our original block in CAD was a block, so it got repeated. The 3D tree got copied on all the components because we had edited the block itself, component itself. Now I can get rid of our 2D lines and click outside to complete the command. Now we have all the trees. Now they are all on the same surface, same level, but we need to project them on the terrains which are at different level. Now we can either place them manually, but we are going to work intelligently here and save our time. So for that I'm going to select all the trees which are as a component, which are individual groups, and then I'm going to use a plugin. Actually it's a setup plugin which is called the JHS Power Bar. Now I'm a big fan of this particular extension. If you are new with extensions, then you must definitely download this plugin because it provides you lots of extensions and you will save lots of time by using these kind of plugins. Now the tool I'm going to use here is called drop at intersection. I'll just click this once and you can see the magic here that all the trees got dropped at wherever the terrain it connected the terrain. You can see that with just one click we can place so many trees at their proper locations. Now all the trees now look the same. I will show a tip how you can change the looks of all the trees even if they are the same component at the end of the webinar. Now let me rearrange the extensions here. Now we have the terrain, 3D terrain, the road along the terrain, and the trees placed here with just a few minutes, within just few minutes. Now here we have a street section. This is the street section, a typical street section with a carriageway, walkway, bicycle track, and plant beds in between with the respective materials applied to them. And we need to extend this particular street section along this path. That means it is not just going along the curve, it is also having an elevation and then dropping down. For that I'm going to use an extension called the Shape Bender. Again, free extension, you can download them. For that we need three different objects. Firstly, the section with the depth, little depth. Then we need a straight line along the red axis. Make sure that the line is depicting the depth of the depth of this. Line is along the depth of the cross section and it is along the red axis. It's important that the line is along the red axis. This is the line I'm talking about. Okay, and then the curve along which we want to project the cross section, particular cross section. So first I'm going to select the group or the component which is the cross section. Make sure it's a group. We cannot use the plugin until it's a group or a component. Then I'm going to click on the Shape Bender. Then we need to select, it's asking for the line that is along the red axis. So this is the line which we had drawn along the red axis. It will say start and end. Then I will click on the, let me arrange the view for this. Then I'm going to click on the path, and we need to wait for some time because it may take some time to process. Okay, it gives me an outline how the end result might come out, and I'm going to click on enter to complete the command. And again it will take some time to finish up everything. Let's wait for some time. And thus we can see that we have our street sections, we have the materials applied to them, and all the details have been done already, and we have our smooth curve going along the path, along the particular path. Now many of you might be thinking that we can also use the follow me tool for this. If you have the cross section, this cross section, with the cross section you can follow me. Yes, you can use the follow me tool, but there are some fundamental issue with the follow me tool. That is, if you try to create the curve that is going on in two axes, that is, it is also going down and it is going as a curve, the follow me tends to create the bending. That is, the road will get inclined at an angle. So the roads are generally not inclined. We can see that the profile of the road is straight no matter how the curve is going whether it is going down or up. With follow me tool you may experience this kind of issues. Secondly, we are also saving time using this tool for applying materials. That means we don't need to apply materials once we have cross sections here. And you can go on adding profiles and different curves, and if you have the cross sections ready, you can have multiple cross sections and you can just project them along the path. Next, I'm going to place some landscape elements along the particular street so that it looks more like a street. For that, let's start with the street lights. I'm going to select the path, the original path which we used to create the road, and again another tool from the JHS power bar which is called copy along path. I'm going to click on copy along path. Now it is saying that the distance between is 10 meters, so I'm going to place it at a distance of 20 meters. I'm working in mm, so typing it as 20,000, enter. Next, it is asking me select the group or the component to copy. You can see the command at the lower left side. So this is the component I need to copy. I will click. It got copied along the path at an interval of 20 meters as we just specified, and it is going along the road as you can see to the end. Now next, I'm going to copy these trees along the street again. For that, again, path, select the path first, go to the copy along path tool from the JHS power bar. This is the JHS power bar, copy along path, and pick on the component. And thus you can see that our street looks complete with the trees, with the street lights placed at a regular interval as it should be. And you can further go on adding more details like any landscape furniture or any kind of elements you want. Even human beings can be placed like this at a regular interval, although that may look weird. Anyways, the most important thing here to keep in mind is that the axis of the component which you are using needs to be placed properly and oriented properly. I had already placed the axis so that I get the correct result. Otherwise you may get some irregularities with the result. So once you have this, may come with some trial and error, but the axis needs to be placed properly. So I can get rid of the original objects, and thus we have the street section complete, again within a matter of minutes. I'm going to repeat the same process because I know many of you might be excited to know about this for waterfront development. Now again we have this cross section with a slight depth. Now this depth can be more or even less, and if you are having multiple cross sections, you can divide the curve into multiple parts, and you can bend different cross sections along different paths. So I'm going to use just one single cross section. This is the cross section, this is the line which is along the red axis, as we had learned that we need a line along the red axis, and this is the curve. This time it's a flat curve. I mean, it does not have any elevation. So let's select the object first, click on the shape bender, click on the line along the red axis. Now it will ask for the curve, click on the curve, and we have the curve, but I want to flip the curve, flip the result on the other side. So I'll press the up arrow key or the down arrow key once. It got flipped, and once I'm happy I can accept by pressing enter, and thus we have the profile along the curve. At the same time we already have the materials placed in them. Now I'm going to turn on the elements here which we are going to copy again. This time I'm going to select a path. It's just the same process is exactly the same. Go to the copy along path, click on the component, and it got repeated. Now if I want to reduce the distance between them, I can type in the dimension, which is this time I want it in 10 meter spacing, and click enter. You can see that the elements are placed along the curve at a distance of 10 meters. And then it's complete. Answering. Now I'll go on to the next one. Yes. Let me hide all the unwanted objects here. Okay. Now we have here is some crisscross pathways with some green area in between, which are supposed to be mounds. So I know that many of you, or many of us actually, even I face challenges while creating mounds in landscape. So this particular exercise, and in fact the coming next few exercises, are primarily focused on creating mounds in landscape, so that I can demonstrate different cases of creating mounds in your design. So this one is having the crisscross pathways and the green areas in between. So in order to create a mound here, I'm going to use another extension. Make sure you write the names of the extensions. This extension is called the soap skin bubble. Soap skin bubble. It is quite popular among the landscape designers. So this is a two-step process. First we are going to create the skin, then we are going to create a bubble. Okay, so in order to create a skin, we need to select the face, not the face actually, the edges of the face, irrespective of whether the face is selected or not. Make sure the edges are selected. Then I can click on skin. Now it gives me an option whether how many divisions I want. I'm going to going with a higher number, like 20 divisions. 20, it is not picking up, wait a second. Let me repeat the process. Skin, division of 20, enter. Yes, we have the 20 divisions, and I can click enter to complete the command and click outside. Now we had created the skin. Now we have to select the skin we just created and click on the bubble tool here. Now it will ask for a pressure. Okay, now depending on the orientation of the faces, you need to apply a positive or negative value. That means in this case it's a negative face, so I'm going to apply a negative pressure of minus, say, 10, enter. Now 10 appears to be way too much, so I'm going to reduce it to, say, 5, or even less, say 4. I think this looks fine. I'm going to keep it little exaggerated for our understanding, and then we can soften the edges and apply the material we want on our mound. We need to repeat this for all the individual mounds, and you can see that it's a very natural kind of mound which we just created using the soap bubble. I'll be demonstrating more of soap bubble soon, but this is one way of creating the mound. Next is we will create much more complex mounds, but the extension or the process here is much more simpler. Here we have a meandering pathway leading to this building. Now we want some kind of sloping mounds coming down from both the boundary walls, connecting to the edge of these pathways. Now for that we need to define the edges of the pathways on the either side. Okay, so for this we know that on this side the edge will be defined by this particular edge of the pathway. So I'm going to copy the edge, and I'm going to paste it in place. So paste in place, I have just pasted the pathway on this the edge on this edge of the path. Then I'm just going to create some kind of curve to show some undulation here. Now it is up to you how you create. Let me create it again. What kind of form you are looking for? I'm just going to create using the arc tool, SketchUp's native arc tool here, and I'm going to create some curves like this. So it is a combination of 3 arc. So this is how we define the edge on this side, and the edge on the other side is defined by this arc, this curve, the pathway. So I'm not going to use the soap bubble this time, although we can, but I'm going to use the Sandbox tool. Again, we all know that Sandbox tool is only for contours, but it is not necessarily just for creating contours. We can also create irregular geometries using Sandbox tool. I'm just going to click here once, and you can see that it connected the edge profile from the wall to the edge profile on the pathway, but it also created some unnecessary or unwanted faces, especially where there are concave edges. For that, all we need to do is some cleanup, and for doing the cleanup we need to show the hidden geometry. You can see that all the triangulations here. I'm going to erase this, all the unwanted lines from the created by the Sandbox tool, and we can apply the material, glass material here. Thus we have our smooth curve. We missed this smooth curve connecting from an undulating surface here to the pathway, flat pathway. I'm going to show the same again for the other side, but this time I'm going to use the Sandbox instead of the Sandbox tool, the soap bubble. I can create the pathway using any line. In fact, I could have used straight lines also. I could have used curves or even the Bezier toolbar, if you are familiar with the Bezier toolbar, Bezier curve. So this edge is defined. Now in order to define the other edge, I need to copy this, Control C, view, edit, and paste in place. Now this is already selected. I need to select the edge on the other side. Now in order to create using the soap bubble, I need to have it as a closed loop. Okay, so I had closed it by creating 2 extra lines. I'm going to click on the skin tool. Now the skin is created. I'm going to go with the default division of 10 this time. Click on enter. You can see that it is connected here, just like we had in case of this. Let me apply the material. We can also smooth it, and we have the same result as the one we had using the Sandbox tool, but here we also have the additional option of bulbing out the object by applying some kind of pressure. Again, this was a negative phase, so I'm going to apply -10. Oh, sorry, it will be a positive pressure this time, so 10 or even less, say 5 should do. So now we have the mound along with the edges defined. So play around with the soap skin bubble and the Sandbox tool. I'm going to show a few more examples. This one is a little bit more complicated, but it's almost the same, because now this time they are in two different levels. I have already created the profile. The profile is created just by copying this particular edge and moving it downwards, and I have created it into a group so that it does not interfere with rest of the model. And I'm just going to click on the skin, default settings, enter, click outside, again click on the bulb, click on the soap skin and apply the pressure, -10. Okay, 10 looks fine this time, and click outside, apply this, soften the edges, and we have the curve. Again, repeating the same process using this kind of profile. Let me show the profile here. It is going in multiple directions. Now, using Sandbox tool in this kind of profile will create some kind of annoyance, because we have lots of concave faces like this. Here also we have a concave face, so that's why I prefer to go with the skin tool. I've just created the skin tool, skin right now. Press enter. Now let me turn on the rest of the model. You can see that if we don't want any kind of bulb or the bulge here, this is more than enough, right? This is more than enough. But if we want the mount to have some kind of bulge, we can also have the pressure, and thus we have the mount. So we can repeat the process for the rest of the mounts, and I think you understood this. So let me turn on rest of the components so that it looks complete. We have the landscape tree here, and we have a pergola as well. But the problem with the pergola here is we can easily create a pergola along a straight line, but we need to have the pergola along this pathway. Okay, so in order to create the pergola along a pathway, we can definitely use the shape bender tool. We just need the profile, and this needs to be the depth, right? And we need to create it along the red axis and straight line, which I have already demonstrated in two of our examples. But we are going to use a different tool here, which is Fredo scale tool. And along the Fredo scale tool, I am going to use the Fredo scale radial bending tool. Okay, so just for a different type of understanding, we can definitely try it with the shape bender tool. So I'm going to use the radial bending tool here. Make sure the object is selected. I'm going to measure the entire from the midpoint. I'm going to measure the entire depth of the pergola, or in this case the length, and then I can click somewhere. Sorry, radial bending. Make sure it is on the blue axis. Like this. Yes, now you can see that we can bend our pergola like it's as if it's made of rubber, and we can place it as per our requirement, and thus we have the pergola along our pathway. Now you can try this plugin with pergolas, even landscape elements like furniture or any kind of elements. Even you could have bended the steps along using the radial bending tool. So it's that simple. So now I will show you some certain bonus tips, but before moving on to a few bonus tips here, details of which will be shared by Anupama. So let's move on to the bonus tips. First is how you can bend any object. Next, I'll show you that there is a small extension which is called the floor generator. We have a surface. I'm just showing it in this surface because it will take some time to create a floor here on this is a larger surface. So this surface, I'm going to click on the floor generator. There are several options like the herringbone pattern, basket weave pattern, which we generally use in our landscape pavings, and irregular polygon pattern. I'm going to go with irregular polygon pattern. I can pick material. I can pick any material. Let's go with this material. Material I had picked before because it will apply the material on the newly created objects automatically. All I need to do is pick the appropriate pattern and click on the face and wait for it. Yes, you can see that we have this irregular polygon pattern on these pathways created by the floor generator. Now all the hard works are done by the plugins and extensions. We just need to do the smart works here. Next, I'll show you how you can create a tensile canopy using the soap skin bubble. Let me create a rectangle like this, and let me give some height to them. So all I'm doing here is created a rectangle, then I have created some lines so that I can get the profile for the canopy, which will be, let's create it into a group. Now this is the profile for the canopy. It will be clear once I'm done with the tool. This is the profile. I'm going to go with skin. Click here, and divisions, I'm going to go with the default division. Click on enter, and you can see that we have the tensile canopy. Let's soften the edges. Yeah. Thus we have the tensile canopy with fraction of minutes. It's not even 1 minute. So you need the profile, outer profile, and all the individual lines will be created by the soap bubble. We don't need any kind of bulb here, bubble effect here, right? Next, another pro tip here is let's go to the waterfront. Let me turn on the layers. Okay, now you can see that all the trees which we placed here are the same component, right? And it looks very weird. It looks not natural if we have all the trees as the same. So let me first explode the component so that I can select all the trees individually. Now all the trees are selected individually. Okay, then I'm going to use an extension called scale and rotate multiple, and within that extension there is an option called scale and rotate randomly. Click here. Now I'm going to scale it about the axis, that is along the central axis of the component, with a scale factor of 0.8 to say 1.2. That means it will. Okay, the doubt was regarding creating the mound. Let me create the mount first using the soap skin, and then provide the bulb. The bubble of -10, okay, -5. Okay, we have the contour. You want to modify this particular mount. For that you can use the smooth tool. You need to go inside the object. Let's make it the smooth first, and the smooth tool, I can change in the radius. Let's say 5. I can change in the radius and then control it manually, or we can also use please stop annotating on the screen. Or you can also use the artisan tool, which has got much more control for creating elevations and depressions on a given terrain. Like this, we can modify the terrain. The doubts. The canopy which I shared. Wait a second, let me see the canopy first. Section tool with create animation. Okay, there was a doubt regarding the pergola. Let me demonstrate it once again. Let's turn on the pergola. Okay, this is the pergola. I am using the extension, the tool called Fredo scale. And I'm going to pick the entire length of the pergola because entire length will be bended. And then I'm going to click and rotate. Just again, 1 second. It is not picking up the points because it's not a straight object. Okay, now we have the entire length, and I can bend it as per our requirements. You can bend any object. You can bend furniture, you can bend steps. Let me show you once again with few examples. Like you have any kind of sitting, like this, any object can be bent. I'm going to convert it into a group. I'm going to click it from here to this point because this time I'm going to bend only on this part. Rest of the part will be straight. So I can go on bending along this direction, and I can do the bending again, this time on the other direction, let's say on this direction, and I can go on adding more bends to it. There was a doubt regarding which tool I used to create the random rotate tool. That is the Chris Fulmer's scale and rotate multiple and scale and rotate randomly. What is the tool used for pergola? Fredo scale. Fredo scale is the name of the extension, and the tool I used is the radial bending. These are all free tools. All the extensions I demonstrated today are all free tools. except for the artisan tool which we used. Is there anything else? How to geolocate, how to get contour lines for the terrain. You can create, let me show by geolocating a model. I'm opening a new file. For this, I'm going to geolocate it by going to File, Add Location, I'm going to pick up a location, the terrain, select region, I'm going to pick a small region and import. You need to be connected to the internet. Now we have the terrain here. Okay. Now I can create intersect rectangles which can be used to intersect with this particular terrain. I have demonstrated this in my previous workshops, but let me show it once again. I'm going to give it a spacing of 10 meters. In fact, the contour interval, in this case I am assuming to be 5 meters. Enter, and I'm going to repeat this to say 20 times. Okay, now I'm going to intersect this with the object, intersect faces with model. Now I can erase these lines. We have the contours lines created from this particular terrain. This is how you geolocate a model. You import a terrain and also you can create a contour lines. So will you teach me?
There are some queries in YouTube.
Okay, there are some queries in YouTube.
Can you suggest some other extension similar to the artisan, because that extension is not working for me?
Other extensions like artisan, you won't get all the tools of artisan, but individual tools are available. Like instead of the sculpt brush tool, you can use the smooth tool. They work more or less similarly. And instead of, if you are working with other tools like subdivide and smooth, you can try other tools like again that was also that will be a paid tool called subd. How can we give thickness to the tensile canopy which was made by soap bubble? Yes, in order to create the thickness, you need to use the extension called joint push pull. Using joint push pull, you can create thickness on any irregular surface. Will you teach us the same as you taught in the last seminar? No, it will be different. Each workshop is a different module. Can you bring the right surface automatically to the selected area? I did not understand your query. How to simplify the model with free plugin? Simplify the plugin model. I mean, if you are talking about reducing the file size, then yes, you can go with the purge tool. It's a free tool. By using the purge tool, you can erase all the unwanted components, layers, materials, and styles. It will help you reduce the size. Which laptop you are using? I'm using a desktop. It's a pretty high configured desktop with 6 GB graphic card, 16 GB RAM, i7, processor, edge generation. Simplify hidden lines. Simplify hidden lines, I still did not understand. You mean how did I soften the edges? How to make the surface of these contour lines? Surface, I just demonstrated it in a while. You can watch the YouTube video. Let me repeat this just quickly. I just simplified the contour and go with the Sandbox tool. From contour, you can create the surface. Complex models, if you want to hide any of the surface, you can use the eraser tool by holding Control key and the erase key to hide unwanted lines. Auto reverse faces, you cannot auto reverse, you can right click and reverse faces. You can definitely have a shortcut to that. I use the shortcut Control R to reverse the faces. There is no extension for auto reverse faces.
Someone has asked, what is the price of SketchUp 2020?
Price of SketchUp 2020, it cost me around 63,000 with 1 year maintenance. It's a one-time license. You buy it one time, it's a lifetime license.
What?
Okay, I think we are done with the questionnaires. Yes, AMD. Thank you.